So I used to live by my Google Calendar. You know what I'm talking about, right? Those color-coded blocks stretching across hours and days. Purple for travel equals new adventures planned. Red for birthdays. Yellow for holidays. And I thought that was my life. That trip to Boston. The California vacation next month. Time was just, well, it was the stuff between destinations. The boring parts you endure until the next Instagram worthy moment. But here's the thing, I was completely wrong about where life actually happens. Welcome to the Human Thread. Hey, quick thing before we continue. You know, this whole episode is about paying attention to the ordinary moments. And I've got to tell you about something that's really helped me do that. It's called Field Notes Journal. Field Notes is this beautifully designed pocket notebook that I carry with me everywhere now. And it's small enough to fit in your back pocket, but substantial enough that you actually want to write in it. The paper quality is incredible. It's really the smooth stock that just feels good under your pen. And here's why I love it for what we're talking about today. It's low stakes. It's not some precious leather-bound journal that makes you feel like you can only write important thoughts. It's for capturing those small observations, the way the light hits the kitchen table, something your partner said while watering plants, those in-between moments. I've been using Field Notes for about 6 months now. My daughter bought me a few, and I've been really working it into my day-to-day routine. It's changed how I move through my day because knowing I have a place to capture those moments makes me more likely to actually notice them. Now, back to the show. Okay, so I just got back from traveling this week, and something strange happened. Usually when you come home from a trip, routine settles over you like a heavy coat, right? Almost, maybe, dare I say, a noose. You're back to the grind. You're back to normal. It's not the exciting adventure that you just came back from. But this time I brought something different. I brought something back with me. And that was the traveler's eye. Except I'm not using it in a foreign city anymore. I'm using it at home. I'm using it at my kitchen table. Stay with me here because this is where it gets a little bit interesting, at least interesting for me. There's this historian. His name is Nate DeMeo. He's an amazing storyteller. And he says something that just completely changed how I have been seeing my own life. He says, quote, "There's life that exists between the plot points in everybody's life. And in fact, that might be where life really is." I'm going to pause for a moment because that quote is quite powerful. Between the plot points. I cannot explain really how this quote affected me. I heard it on a podcast and then I read up on him and then I read this quote again and it just hit me at the right time at the right moment. So here's what I realized. I've been living with what I'm calling relational astigmatism, right? Maybe I don't know, maybe I went overboard calling it this way. But I can only see clearly during the scheduled moments. Date nights, planned conversations, one-on-ones at work, those times when we deliberately turn toward each other with capital I intention. But everything else, it's sort of just a blur. It's routine. It's just waiting time until the next scheduled intimacy or the next scheduled event. Last night is a perfect example. My wife was watering her plants, and instead of scrolling on my phone or playing chess, like I normally would, I just sort of watched her. Maybe that's kind of creepy. She doesn't actually know I did this. And I really watched in the way she moved through this ritual that she's done 1,000 times. The precise way that she turns the faucet in our kitchen sink to fill up the pot. The way in which she moves and positions the pots within the sink. These are orchids after all, and they need to soak in that water for a certain amount of time. There was a lot of intention there. and its intention that was based on routine. We've been together 28 years, and I was seeing her like it was the first time. Now, nothing was different about what she was doing. What was the difference was that I was actually paying attention to this. And that's when it hit me. This is what DeMeo means by the space between the story of our lives and those lives as we live them. So here's the problem with plot points. Here's the trap we fall into. We build our relationships around these plot points. The anniversary dinner, the vacation, that big decision. But the actual texture of that love, the actual texture of that friendship, it lives in these unremarkable moments. And when we only focus on the highlight reel, we create this relational scarcity. Like meaningful connections can only happen during those designated times. Everything else is just filler. We know that that's wrong, but that's the way some people operate. That's the way I've operated at times. That's sort of a waste. What a massive waste of opportunity. Because here's what I'm learning now. The breakthrough almost never happens during those planned discussions. It happens in the car when someone's guard is down. It happens over coffee when a friend says something offhand that suddenly illuminates everything. My morning walk is 2 miles. It's the same route I've taken for years, and I mean years, like pushing 10 years. It's the same 2-mile walk. It used to feel like nothing, just exercise, just getting my steps in. But now it's become this meditation on the incremental, like how the light shifts by tiny degrees as the seasons change. Because I walk the same route every single day, I can pick up these minute differences. How does my neighbor's tree evolve week by week? How do my own footsteps have different rhythms depending on what's going on or what happened the night before? This isn't some performance of mindfulness. This is more a curiosity as a way of life. And it translates directly to relationships. Instead of waiting for the big conversations, I'm getting fascinated by the small ones. The stories that come out while doing the dishes, the way someone's voice changes when they're thinking out loud, that particular silence that happens when two people are comfortable enough to stop entertaining each other. And when you're always encountering the new, when you're always traveling, you're always skimming the surface. But when you commit to really seeing the familiar, you discover layers that only reveal themselves through repeated, patient attention. Before we wrap up, I want to tell you about something I've been using that's honestly changed how I approach my mornings, and it connects directly to what we've been talking about today. It's called Headspace, and look, I know there are a million meditation apps out there, but here's why this one stuck for me. It doesn't make me feel like I'm failing at meditation, which I know is a really big barrier for a lot of people. I've been using this morning meditation sessions. They're short, they're like 10 minutes. And what I love is that they're not asking me to empty my mind or achieve some perfect state of Zen. They're just helping me start the day more aware and more present. There's this one series called Everyday Headspace, where each day you get a different focus, and it's doing exactly what we've been discussing. It's training you to pay attention to ordinary moments, to notice what you're actually experiencing instead of just moving through your day on autopilot. I'm not saying it's magic. Some mornings I'm distracted the whole time, but even on those days, I've carved out 10 minutes to just sit with it, to attempt to be present, and that intention carries into how I show up for the people in my life. If you want to try it, I think it's headspace.com is where you can learn more. They usually have a free trial going. And hey, if you really like it, make sure you let them know that you heard about it from here, because who knows, maybe they'll sponsor the show at some point. I think it's worth checking out if you're serious about this attention thing. All right, let's get back to the show. So here's what I'm thinking about now. Here are the questions that I'm currently sitting with, or maybe more specifically wrestling with. How do I bring the traveler's mindset to my everyday relationships? How do I ask questions I think I know the answers to? How do I notice details I've overlooked for years? How do I create space for people to surprise me, even people I've known forever? Because DeMeo says something else that stuck with me. We are what we pay attention to. If that's true, and I think it is, in fact, I'm pretty sure I know it is, then I've been training myself to be relationally absent during most of my life. And I don't want to do that anymore. Look, the adventures will continue. There will be more trips, more milestones, more purple blocks on my calendar. But maybe, just maybe, the real journey is happening in the spaces between destinations. Maybe it's in those countless ordinary moments when you realize the people in your life are still full of beautiful mysteries, still surprising, still worth discovering. And maybe those mysteries are just waiting for you in the next conversation or the next shared silence. All you have to do is pay attention. Thanks for listening to The Human Thread, and thanks for your patience. I know it's been a couple weeks since I last posted, but I spent some time retooling, lining up some interview guests, so stay tuned for that. Also, thank you to the Never Project for allowing me to use their song Light for the new theme music. Look them up on Spotify, the Never Project. I'm really, really excited about their new EP. I'm your host, Greg. I'll see you next time. And until then, stay curious about the people you already know.
Every time I look at you, I find another 20,000 reasons why there's not enough life on this line.